Hi guys, thanks for joining us and welcome to this week's episode of Saint of the Week. This week's saint is St Josephine Bakhita, and here's 5 things that we think you need to know about her. Number 1, Josephine was born in Sudan in the 1860s. Her dad was the brother of her village chief, and in her autobiography she says that she lived a carefree early life where she didn't really understand the idea of suffering and she was really loved. Unfortunately, when she was 7 or 8 years old, she was kidnapped and sold into slavery. Number 2, sadly, Josephine had a really difficult early life. She was sold into slavery and forced to walk hundreds of miles before she was eventually sold to a family who were incredibly cruel to her. In her autobiography, she describes not knowing a day when she didn't suffer some form of wound or injury. And she was sold from household to household, and over the course of 12 years, she was sold to 4 different households. And in all of them, apart from the final one, she experienced nothing but cruelty and people who didn't care or love her in any way. Number 3, that 4th family that owned her treated her much better. They were originally from Africa, but they moved to Italy, and they treated her with a lot more care and a lot more love. Before they went back to Africa, she went and stayed with some nuns. And she enjoyed it so much, she found a real sense of community and people who genuinely cared for her and genuinely loved her. She didn't want to leave. And eventually, an Italian court found that because slavery wasn't legal in Italy, she couldn't be forced to go anywhere. So she stayed with the nuns and was eventually baptized. And she says in her autobiography that the nuns introduced her to a God who she had known in her heart for her whole life, but never encountered. Number 4, so after being baptized and receiving the sacraments, St Josephine spent the rest of her life living within this community of nuns in Venice. And she devoted her life to serving other people, to spreading the good news, and she became known far and wide as someone who was incredibly caring and incredibly loving to all who she met. When she died, after 45 years living with the nuns, thousands of people turned up to pay their respects and to attend the funeral. Number 5, St Josephine's story is really truly incredible, and it's a real example of the healing power of God's love. For so many years, Josephine never experienced love. She didn't understand what it meant to be cared for, what it meant to be loved, what it meant to be treated as a human. And when she encountered it, her response wasn't to be angry with God or to reject God. Her response was to share the love of God with all she met. Josephine's story is also really powerful because it shows the possibility of coming out of darkness into light. All of us, at some point or another in our lives, will face difficulty and challenge. Hopefully none of us will ever face anything as challenging as what St. Josephine went through. But her story is a reminder that even in those darkest of moments, there is hope, there is joy, and there is love. And that God's love can conquer all of that darkness and deliver us into a happy and fulfilling life. After many years of people campaigning for it, St. Josephine was made a saint in 2000. And she became the first black woman of the modern era to be made a saint. So she's a real example in so many different ways and a real symbol of the power of faith, particularly in Africa. So I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about St. Josephine. She's one of my favourite saints. I think she's a really incredible and really inspirational woman. And I hope that she is as inspiring to you as she is to me. But thanks for watching. Have a great week. I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.